The rain was falling hard that evening, not the gentle kind that kisses the ground, but the kind that pounds it with a fury, as if the sky itself was grieving. The streets shimmered with reflections of neon lights and broken dreams, and through that storm stood a young man, drenched to the bone, wiping grease from his trembling hands. His name was Armin, the son of a poor mechanic, barely 22, with more responsibility on his shoulders than years in his life. That night, as thunder roared and the world hurried home, fate was quietly preparing to write a story that would forever change two souls from opposite ends of life's road. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe that kindness and second chances can change lives, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Lights of Hearts. Let's spread stories that remind the world what it means to be human. Armin's small repair shop stood at the edge of the city, a fading shelter of tin and hope. His father, once known as the best mechanic in the area, had fallen sick 2 years ago, a lung infection that made even breathing a battle. Since then, Armin had taken over the business, working long days and sleepless nights just to afford medicine and keep food on the table. The city around him grew richer, shinier, colder, while his little shop rusted under time and rain. But no matter how hard life pushed him, Armin never stopped smiling at his father before leaving home each morning. One day, he'd whisper, "I'll make things better. You'll see." That night, the rain came earlier than expected. He was about to close the shop when he heard the distant sound of a car engine struggling, followed by the unmistakable hiss of steam. Through the curtain of rain, headlights flickered, and a sleek black car rolled slowly to a stop right outside his garage. It was a luxury sedan, the kind that only the rich could afford. He wiped his hands and stepped into the rain. The driver's door opened, and out stepped a woman, tall, elegant, dressed in a white suit now soaked by the downpour. Her eyes were sharp, her expression proud, but beneath the surface, there was panic. She was Maya, a 30-year-old CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in the city. She had built her empire from nothing, clawing her way up in a world that often tried to drag her down. Tonight, she had an important investor meeting across town. She couldn't afford delays, and yet, here she was, stranded in the rain, engine dead, patience thinner than the umbrella she forgot in her car. When Armin approached, dripping wet but carrying a quiet confidence, she looked at him with a mix of desperation and disbelief. He didn't ask questions. He just got to work. The rain soaked through his shirt as he lifted the hood. Steam rose like smoke, and bolts gleamed under his flashlight. His fingers moved with skill and instinct, the kind that comes not from books but from years of struggle. Maya watched, speechless, as this young man, with nothing but basic tools and determination, fought the storm to bring her car back to life. Every now and then, lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating his face, calm, focused, humble. 20 minutes later, the engine roared again. He closed the hood and stepped back, wiping his forehead with a rag. "You're good to go," he said softly. Maya looked at him, really looked at him this time. His clothes were torn, his shoes old, but his eyes, they held a light she hadn't seen in years. Gratitude flickered across her face, but before she could speak, he waved his hand dismissively. "No need to thank me, ma'am. Just drive safe." She reached into her purse to hand him some money, a large bill, but he refused. "It's okay," he said, smiling faintly. "You needed help. That's enough for me." He turned back toward the garage as if fixing luxury cars in a storm was the most ordinary thing in the world. Maya sat there for a long second, stunned. Then she rolled down her window and called out, "What's your name?" He paused and turned slightly, the rain glistening in his hair. "Armin," he replied, "Armin Rahim." That name would echo in her mind for weeks to come. Maya drove away that night, but something inside her changed. She was a woman who dealt with boardrooms, numbers, contracts, not kindness. Yet that brief encounter reminded her of something she had lost long ago, empathy. She couldn't stop thinking about the young man who refused money, who worked in the rain just to help. She found herself searching for his shop again the next day. When she arrived, the shop looked even smaller in daylight, rusted signs, cracked walls, the faint smell of oil and hope. Armin was there, smiling as always, repairing an old bike. She hesitated for a moment before stepping out. When he saw her, surprise flickered across his face. "You again," he said with a laugh. "Did the car give you trouble?" But Maya shook her head. "No," she said softly. "I came to thank you properly." What started as a simple thank you turned into a long conversation. She learned about his father's illness, his dreams, his struggle to keep the shop running. She listened, really listened, something few people ever did for him. Before leaving, she handed him her card. "If you ever need anything," she said, "call me." Armin smiled and nodded politely but tucked the card away without much thought. People like her didn't stay in his world. Weeks passed. Then came the day his father's condition worsened. The hospital demanded an expensive treatment, and Armin's world began to crumble. Desperate, he remembered the card. For hours he stared at it, unsure, ashamed, scared to appear needy. But love for his father pushed him beyond pride. He called the number. And that one call changed everything. Maya didn't hesitate. She arranged the treatment immediately, quietly covering all expenses. When Armin tried to thank her, she said, "You helped me when you didn't have to. Let me return the favor." But she didn't stop there. She saw something in him, raw potential, honesty, and courage. Soon, she offered him a small position at her company's mechanical department, insisting he deserved more than a leaking roof and fading tools. He resisted at first, unwilling to leave his father or his small garage, but she encouraged him to dream bigger. Their worlds began to intertwine in ways neither expected. Maya, who once lived behind glass walls of power and loneliness, found herself drawn to Armin's sincerity. And Armin, who had only known hardship, began to see how compassion could bridge the vast gap between wealth and poverty. Slowly, an unspoken bond formed, one built not on wealth or status, but on mutual respect and quiet admiration. Months turned into years. Armin excelled at work, earning promotions through sheer dedication. He brought new ideas, helped streamline factory operations, and became an inspiration to many. Maya watched him grow, proud, protective, and secretly moved. And when his father finally passed away peacefully, she stood beside him at the funeral, holding an umbrella over him as the rain fell once again. This time, the rain didn't feel cold. It felt cleansing. Years later, Armin started his own automobile company, one that focused on affordable, sustainable vehicles for the common man. Maya became his first investor, and together they built something that not only changed their lives but touched thousands of others. Reporters often asked how their partnership began. They would both smile and say, "It started with a broken car and a storm." But for Maya, it was more than that. It was about finding light in unexpected places. And for Armin, it was about realizing that no act of kindness is ever wasted, that sometimes, helping someone in the rain can open doors to a destiny you never imagined. The story of the poor mechanic's son and the powerful CEO became more than a tale of success. It became a reminder that humanity still lives in the smallest gestures, in moments of compassion that ripple across lives. And maybe, just maybe, it's proof that fate often hides behind broken engines and stormy nights. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Lights of Hearts. Let's keep spreading real stories that restore faith in kindness, love, and humanity. Speech balloon special request. Comment below with this line, "Kindness never goes unnoticed." Let's see how many hearts still believe in it.